Hello, good afternoon, and welcome everyone. This is Deepak. A very good afternoon to all of you. Hope all of you had lunch, first of all, and thank you for joining us today. Just a quick audio check. Can all of us, you know, hear me? Can you guys give quick feedback? You can either type in the chat window or the questions window quickly. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Abdul. Thanks, Prahlad. So since I have more than one data point here saying yes, let's begin. So first of all, I'm very excited to be here with all of you. We are a small group of people, not many number of attendees. So I guess we are 12 of us here. And what we are going to do today is discuss about a very exciting area of technology, cloud computing. In general, we'll talk about how the entire ecosystem has shaped up. We'll see the growth pattern, and then we'll see what exactly cloud computing means, right? What does it mean for you as a professional? And what does it mean for companies, small and large, to work with cloud computing, right? So that's one half of the talk today. That's one half of the agenda. So apart from looking at what cloud computing is for you and enterprises in general, we'll also look at the opportunity that you have as a working professional, right? Why should you be excited more than anybody else, more than your company or your projects as a professional? Why should you be excited about cloud computing, right? Is it here to stay just for now? Is it a temporary trend in technology, or is it a long-term evolution? And do we have careers, right? Do you have opportunities as professionals? We'll see that as well. And towards the end, we'll see how Great Lakes and Great Learning together are trying to help working professionals seize this opportunity, right? So what's the program that we have at Great Lakes, the postgraduate program in cloud computing? How can that help you, right? So we'll do these three fundamental things as part of the agenda, right? So just give me one quick second. Let me check if a couple of other people are also joining in, and we'll start in about a minute, right? And if you have any questions to start with quickly, unless I'm going to cover that as part of the agenda, I'll be happy to answer. Just starting in a minute. Thank you. All right, let's begin. So first of all, again, my name is Deepak. What do I do here? So I am the program lead for PG program in cloud computing at Great Lakes. And I'm also a faculty, right? So if you happen to become a part of the program, we'll get to discuss a lot of things apart from private cloud, DevOps, AWS, and all of that, right? So that's my role briefly at Great Lakes. I have about a decade of experience in cloud and development, both in academia and industry as well. And I've done my part of research and all of that. So very quickly about me, and let's get started with today's agenda, right? So what are companies up to, right? What's happening in the technology space as far as cloud computing is concerned? So if you see the evolution in the last 5 or 10 years, you will identify a pattern. Okay, that pattern is, and I'm sure most of you will be able to relate to this, especially if you're working in a senior role and on the business side of things, right? That your bosses, our clients and customers, and our companies in general, although they like technology and they like what technology enables you to achieve, nobody really wants to get into the details, right? Nobody really wants to manage servers. Nobody really wants to troubleshoot networks all the time and debug problems in their application, right? It's always good to have a solid and a very cool application, right? But not every company really wants to do that. And especially, for companies where IT is not their core business. I am not talking about, are companies like Infosys, Wipro, and our service industry in general, neither products. But I'm talking about people like State Bank of India, for example, right? Or people like JP Morgan, or Government of India, or any other enterprise or small and or medium customer you might talk about, right? These people do not want to spend time, money in wrestling with servers, right? So companies have evolved, right? They're spending less time wrestling servers, because guess what? What's the ultimate aim? And why are companies doing businesses, right? It's about their customers. So you really don't get any extra brownie points for using servers if you can't service your customers, right? It doesn't matter if your company, let's say it's a travel company, and if you have thousands of servers, but when I need a cab ride, I cannot get a cab. Okay, that happens to many of us, I'm sure, with Ola and Uber. So if I can't get a ride from your company, I will not really care how cool your application is or how many servers is your application hosted on, right? So you don't get points for using servers, you only get points and business for serving your users, right? That's the fundamental motivation of why a technology paradigm like cloud has succeeded in the first place, right? So about 14 years ago, when it was first launched in production, cloud has really come a long way, and it's become the mainstream focus area of almost all of the enterprise, right, at some or the other level, right? So that's the message from this particular slide deck here, that as a company, you do not want to get into the details and hassles of infrastructure. You want to focus on your core business and want somebody else to take care of the technology infrastructure, right? Now that somebody else is now translating to cloud providers, right? We'll see how. Apart from that, what has happened in the last 5 or 6 years, especially with the advent of 4G, and now 5G is coming up, that plus with the advent of cheap hardware and storage, that plus the exponential bandwidth speeds, right? So all these three things combined, right? The storage capacity, the compute power, the humongous bandwidth available, and the capability of technology to service people, and the adoption of apps and platforms and mobile phones, especially in a country like India. What has happened is there has been an interesting phenomena of having companies which were completely born on cloud, right? That's the term I want to emphasize. There are companies and enterprises literally who were born on cloud. They do not own any physical infrastructure of their own, but they have leveraged the power of cloud computing, right? Basically, in very simple terms, the infrastructure of another company which is ready to host my application, and they have serviced their global customers, right? So what you see on your screen here are 4 examples of companies that do not own any physical infrastructure of their own, of course, apart from some fundamental machines and entities, but which are global companies, right? And these are companies literally born on cloud. So cloud enables you to not just rent a virtual machine, or store your data like Drive and all of that, or host your emailing service. It is much more than that, right? If you are an entrepreneur, if you wanted to start a service like Ola or Uber, or Stripe, which is basically a global payments processing company, right? Like you see, it's in 100 plus countries. So without having a data center or a cloud infrastructure for yourself, it's very difficult to imagine how would you service your customers across the globe in 100 plus countries, right? Forget just one place. So that is what cloud enables you to do, and this is what companies are doing now. So people are focusing on creating more intuitive and engaging products, applications, and all of that is built and deployed on cloud, right? That's the power of cloud computing as a technology paradigm, right? So you can go and check out Rubrik, Looker, Cloud Health. All of these companies are purely hosted on cloud. Right now, the actual platform might be different for these companies. Some people prefer AWS, some people prefer Azure, some prefer IBM Cloud. That's a secondary consideration, right? The fundamental idea here is businesses are leveraging cloud computing in huge way, and apart from that, there are new businesses, new products coming online only because of cloud computing. If you were to create something like Stripe or Uber or Ola 10 years back, that would not have been possible, right? And all of us clearly know that. So that's again an interesting progression of the industry, and that's what cloud is enabling us to do. A few statistics and numbers for your reflection. We don't have to get into all of them, but let me draw your attention to some of these numbers, right? So if you look at the top left corner, you see a number of $162 billion, right? That's in general the amount of money that is going to be spent on cloud computing, right? And that's a global number. It's not for India, it's a global number, right? In fact, our entire IT industry is close to that particular number. If you take what's the worth of Indian IT industry, right? So that's the amount of money that is going to be spent by companies, small and large, for cloud computing, right? If you look at the top right corner, that is the number of companies using not just one, keep in mind, not just one, but multiple cloud platforms, right? So 85%, which translates to saying, hey, out of 10 companies in the world, over 8 companies, 8 of them are using cloud platforms, and not just one, but multiple, right? And the middle layer here, you see AWS market penetration, you see Azure market penetration. These numbers obviously keep on changing. They change quarter on quarter, year on year, every financial year, right? And it depends, but largely the pattern has been AWS has been the market leader, right? I'm sure all of you have your statistics as well. Azure has been a close follower, right? Aggressively expanding its cloud services and the offerings that it has, and a distant third is Google Cloud and IBM and all of those competitors, right? So clearly the market is huge, and all the big players are playing this competition, right? And because people like Microsoft, AWS, IBM, even Paytm for that matter, recently launched their cloud platform. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but Paytm recently launched their own cloud computing platform for financial companies, right? What you get, for example, on such a platform is a ready-made stack, right? So if you wanted to create something like Paytm, a financial payments application, you can go and log on to Paytm Cloud, consume their services, get ready-made APIs, and you can build your application on top of that, right? Now, the reason it might make sense for you if you are a financial services company is because it's a proven model, right? Paytm works for millions of users. It works well. And clearly, if you had to consume something, from Paytm Cloud or, for that matter, Alibaba Cloud, if you were doing business in China predominantly, that would make sense. So it's about multiple platforms, and clearly the market is huge, right? I see somebody raising their hands. I do not see a question in the question window, right? So if you have a question, you can just type it in the questions window, and happy to answer those. All right, let's move ahead. So when we say the market is huge, right? Many of you might wonder, is it just in North America or Europe or in a specific country, right? And this chart is specifically for those questions, right? It is happening in India as well. It's not just global, right? The growth that you're seeing in cloud computing, it's pretty much as much as in India as anywhere else. And especially the public cloud services market in India is expected to be a $4 billion market in the next 2 years, right? We are already midway 2018, so we are talking about just the next 18 months, right? So $4 billion is expected to be the market size, and that's literally 3 times growth that has happened from 2016. Okay, so if you look at this chart, it's clearly exponential, and the revenues that you see here are in million US dollars, right? So the market is not just global; it is pretty much in India as well, right? So what's growing really, right? If you were to ask me, hey, you're talking about growing, growth of the market both globally and in India as well, but which of the providers are really growing, right? So the answer is, technically most of them. Okay, so if you look at all the major cloud providers here, so this chart specifically is talking about, what's the percentage of growth for each of these, cloud providers, and this is not a number from a newspaper article, but this is a number from a survey that has been done by companies which consume cloud services, right? So the survey is not from AWS or Azure or Google Cloud or IBM Cloud. This survey is from companies which are consuming cloud services and cloud infrastructure. So if you see AWS, 57% is the year-on-year growth, right? So from 2017 to 2018, they've grown 57%. Azure 34%, Google Cloud is a distant third, and 15%, and so on. Okay. But if you were to look into details, right? So AWS clearly also are somebody who follows these quarterly reports, financial reports. You will see in many quarters, the last 5 financial quarters, Azure faster than AWS, right? So there are interesting patterns that you can see in the market, but at a very high level, if you had to ask me, hey, what are the top 3 cloud platform companies, that would be AWS, Azure, and Google, right? In terms of the acceptability, the services available, and the market potential, both for themselves, their customers, and for you as a professional in terms of career opportunity, right? So that's how the public cloud option is shaping up, and you should be clearly excited as a cloud professional. And mind you, all of these companies enter in India, right? Okay, so Azure data centers are present in 3 places, right? AWS data centers are, I think it's in Mumbai. It's definitely in Mumbai. They're also coming up with the second DC, right? So Google is also planning up to open its DC, and potentially they have opened as we are talking now, right? Alibaba has recently announced its plan to open a DC in Mumbai, data center in Mumbai. So the fact that all of these companies want to open up a data center in India, right? One reason is definitely the demand. The other reason is governance, right? So if you follow news articles, government of India now wants all the cloud providers, right, to host our data and applications in India itself, right, within the geographical boundaries, like you have in Europe because of GDPR and all of that. So one reason is obviously governance. Okay. So somebody saying my voice is breaking. Can all of you hear me? Just a quick check. Is it breaking for everyone? I think it might be a local issue, but okay, breaking. Prahlad. Okay, quick check. Hello. All right, we can hear you. Your voice is breaking. Okay, so let me just mute myself once and let me restart. Now better. All right, so yeah, that's how internet is, right? Some packets reach you, some don't. So I guess some of my voice packets got lost in transit to wherever you are. Okay, so okay, let's give internet its own personal space, right? I think we've become a lot demanding. Yeah. So it's a presumption, right, that internet will work all the time, and it can't be broken. But guess what? It's a bunch of wires and some signals, right? It can get broken. Is it still bad, or do I still have to continue my commentary? All right. Okay, Rajesh is able to recreate. It's okay. All right. You can continue. All right. Thanks, Prahlad, Abdul. Okay, let me just continue, and please let us know if it's really, really bad. But if it is acceptable, let's continue, because neither you, neither me can, so I think we have a broadband connection here. So let's see. Okay. Who is using cloud? Okay, if you were to ask that question, of course, this is from one specific report from RightScale, right? So RightScale reports are one of the most stable reports in the industry. We've chosen that. So 96% of the companies surveyed use cloud, right? That's almost the entire industry, right? You can look at the distribution, you can look at the Venn diagram here, and you can decide a private, who is using only private cloud, who is using just public cloud, who is using hybrid cloud, and all of that. But what I want all of us to understand from this is almost the entire industry is using cloud computing, right, in some or the other fashion. And these numbers are of course from 2013 to 2016, but what I wanted to highlight from this particular chart here is the green pattern. If you look at the color green here in this particular chart, it basically represents traditional data center. Right. Do I have all of your attention, gentlemen? right? So the green color here represents the traditional data center, right? And the number of conventional data centers that we have globally. Now that number was 76% in 2013, but the number has gradually come down to 63%, right? But even in 2016, just a couple of years back, the number 63% is huge. Now this green needs to translate into either of the blues, right? Now either of the blues represents either a public cloud or a private cloud, right? But it represents cloud. So 63%, which means more than half of the data centers globally, right, which is basically written here, right? 2/3 of companies globally still use traditional data centers, and unfortunately, that number is larger in India, right? So primarily, we are a service-based industry, and clearly, we can't move to cloud if our customers or clients do not want to move to cloud, right? Because it's their projects, right? So this opportunity of moving from traditional data center to a cloud-based data center is larger in India as compared to anywhere in the world. And because all of us are located, that's my assumption, in India. So as a professional, the opportunity for you is much higher than your global peers, right, or counterparts. So that's what we are looking forward to, and this number will definitely come to zero, right? If not zero, at least less than 5%, definitely, right? But clearly, everybody wants to move from traditional DC to a cloud-based data center. Okay, so the other aspect of the adoption trend, right? So if you look at these four different and individual charts here, within each of them is a different color representation, right? So that's for the year, right? So 2015, 16, 17, and 18. And if you see, all of them have grown, right? From 2015 to 2018, if you look at public cloud, it has grown. Private cloud has grown, right? It came down for 2017, but it's again picking up in 2018. Hybrid cloud is growing, right? And if you have to think about any cloud in general, so it has stayed consistent largely throughout, right? Which means the demand is sustained. And when you say the demand is sustained, there has to be a supply side as well. Now, there's a gap in the talent pool that the industry expects, and that has been a persistent problem, not just for cloud computing, but the other tech areas as well, right? Analytics, big data, AI, and ML. Right? So that's the adoption trend for cloud computing. Okay, so we've spoken a lot about just cloud computing by itself, but like any other great technological revolution, right? So even when internet came in late or early 90s, right, about 89 or 90, when Sir Tim Berners-Lee gave his first prototype at CERN, right? So like any great technological change, cloud has also changed about other things. Okay, so cloud evolution is not just about your hardware and a bunch of infrastructure components, but cloud evolution has also changed where you, for example, write software. Okay, so if you start talking about containers and microservices, things like Docker and LXD and Kubernetes and CoreOS and Rocket containers, that has been possible because of evolution in operating systems, but also cloud. Okay, so we're talking about deploying legacy applications and refactoring them and recreating them using microservices, right? So once you start talking about microservices, these are predominantly deployed in containers, okay, which is the de facto standard is Docker these days, right? So cloud has also affected that positively. Because cloud gives you the illusion of infinite resources, it has also changed the way people deal with data. Okay, today we are not just talking about databases, we are talking about data stores. Even data stores has become kind of old. Now people are talking about data lakes, right? Which is basically a very natural evolution in how we treat data, right? So the likes of Google BigQuery, Snowflake, AWS Redshift, the illusion of that data and data stored and database resources are available, to the infinite amount, and they will basically just charge you based on your usage, which is very powerful in its own way, right? And really possible because all of this is driven by cloud computing as the underlying platform, right? And just to close on this particular evolution note, you're talking about self-driving cars, you're talking about edge computing, you're talking about fog computing, right? So we are clearly oscillating between what the old computing convention was and what we are doing today, right? So again, things like edge computing, IoT, smart cities will ride on top of your cloud infrastructure. And along with big data, analytics, and machine learning and AI, these three fundamental pillars are clearly reshaping our society, right? So cloud is not just about a bunch of hardware pieces or components. It is affecting literally, all major things that you do with technology, including software development, your DevOps, your operations teams, your data team, right? Be it big data analyst or data scientist, doesn't matter. But cloud is affecting all of these tangential areas as well. So naturally, if cloud has such a huge impact and footprint, cloud professionals are in demand, right? You don't have to believe my word or take this chart as a proof. You can basically, just log on to LinkedIn or your favorite job portal and just search for, cloud roles available, right? There are a whole bunch of them, and the reason they are still out there is there are lack of actual hands-on professionals that can do the work, right? So I purposely emphasize in the word actual hands-on, because that's the key word here, right? So if you talk about, who is getting the jobs and where are the jobs available, there are a lot of opportunities available. The problem is people are focusing on purely becoming paper certified, right? Certifications are great, right? They serve a very specific purpose. I have no intention of demeaning them, right? It takes real skills to get certified. But unfortunately, a lot of people just focus on getting certified and, plan their learning journey based on the certification track, which is great for getting certified, but it really doesn't give you a comprehensive view what an architect would have. Right? It doesn't give you the hands-on exposure that you actually need to solve real-life problems, right? Because certifications teach you how things are supposed to work, okay? But rarely in real life things work in that particular idea. Right? So in real life and real projects, all of us would agree things don't work the way they are prescribed in books or in certification tracks. So certifications are great, but to become a real hands-on architect, you need exposure and hands-on work in all of these areas that you see in front of you, right? So there is much more to cloud than just infrastructure. If you say, hey, I can create a virtual machine on cloud, or I can upload a file on this particular object storage, right? That's just the surface of it, right? What will you do for your customer after creating a virtual machine, right? Because customers do not talk technology. They talk business, right? So they will give you a business problem. They will not tell you, hey, I want 3 EC2 instances or 3 Azure virtual machines, and I want this load balancer on top of that. That's not the vocabulary customers use, right? Customers talk and use business language. They will tell you the business problem. And as an architect, right, you could be a data architect, you could be an enterprise architect, but it clearly doesn't matter here. As an architect, you need to take that business problem and translate that into a technical problem that your company will solve. Your developers and ops teams and team leads and QA, all of them will together solve by creating a solution, right? More often than not, these solutions will be created, managed, deployed, and maintained on cloud, right? So as an architect in making, or as an aspirational person who wants to become an architect, you need to understand what Docker is, right? What DevOps is, what is development, right? Even if you're not a developer, to gain the respect of your team, right? To understand what your developer might tell you tomorrow, you need to know, hey, how does cloud native development work, right? And what's fast? Not just about Elastic Beanstalk, but right, what is App Engine, for example, right? How do you compare in terms of costing, economics, right? What is better? If your application is Python based, does it make a difference, right, to go Beanstalk or App Engine, right? So things like those. Right, so as an architect, you really need to understand all of this and not just a bunch of VMs and load balancers. OpenStack's and private cloud in general has a very small market share, and OpenStack has less than let's say 5% of the global market share. But the reason we prescribe people at least experiment with OpenStack is that they learn the fundamental pieces of cloud, right? If you were to ask me how did AWS set up the cloud computing platform that they have today, I would redirect you to actually read up about OpenStack, right? I do not mean to say that AWS is entirely based on OpenStack. OpenStack gives you those some concepts as to what do you need to have a cloud platform, right? So as an architect, you need to focus on all of these things, and any program that you pursue or any certification that you do might serve a specific tech area, but to have a comprehensive view, you really need to understand all of these. Hey guys, I've been speaking for a while now. I do not see any window. Just quickly check if the audio is better, or you can hear me, or is it breaking? A couple of okay, audio is okay. Thanks, Prahlad. Great. And I hope I'm not too fast. You know, I in a slow fashion if you want. I can hear you fine. Perfect. Great. Let's continue. Okay. So of course, as an aspiring candidate, you would ask, hey, what are the skills learn about, right? If I have to become a cloud professional, what is it that I should know? Okay, so the ideal list of skills that companies usually share, with us, with other people, and the reports that you see, which are globally validated, right? So reports from Gartner and Forbes and a bunch of other leading companies and surveys, right? So these are the skills that you should learn if you wanted to become a cloud, right? Okay, so Prahlad was waiting for this particular information. Wonderful, Prahlad. You could, get this. So databases and big data on cloud, definitely on top out there because of the value of data and because you need to understand cloud. Enterprise cloud migration, because a couple of slides back, we discussed that traditional data centers and obviously the workloads and applications on top of that need to move to cloud-based data centers, right? So people who can do that journey can, application or a workload and move it from on-prem or on-prem infrastructure to cloud-based environments. Those people are absolutely in demand, right? Third is containers. I don't think this needs explanation. The explosion in the number of applications getting deployed on Docker and the rise of Kubernetes is a testimony to itself, right? And obviously you need people who can do DevOps on the cloud, and at a senior level, once you become a CIO or a CTO, and even if you are a senior architect from the business side, you will worry about governance and security, right? You will worry about what's going on, and you'll worry about the security and implications of bad governance models. So you need to understand that as well. Right, so these are the top skills that you should focus on as an aspiring cloud pro. Now, this is one of my favorite slides here, right? And the very simple reason is one of you before the webinar asked, one of my favorite questions. Okay, so some of you asked, and this happens during each webinar and even during the classes, right? And people are doing their regular studies with us. So what's the difference between what Great Lakes Academy, A Cloud Guru, edX, etc. doing, right? So first of all, a disclaimer, right? I learned them. They are courses. They all serve very specific purposes, and their philosophy is different. Okay, so Prahlad, you want me to repeat the last few lines? All right. Audio getting bad. Oh, there is something really weird with the network. Is it for everyone? Okay. Oh, yes means bad for everyone. Okay. Right. Let's just give it a couple of minutes. Let's allow the internet to repair itself. Okay. Probably shape back to correct. Okay, same here. Perfect. Okay, TCP retransmit. Okay, so let me ask this. Who is from where? Is it just one single city or a certain zone that the Indian internet connection is bad? Oh, Bangalore. Prahlad, that's really unfortunate. Okay. Gurgaon, Hyderabad, all top cities, huh? Nagpur. Oh, Ashish, glad to see you from Nagpur. Yeah, one of my good friends is from there. Okay. Rajesh is joining in from UK, Chennai. Okay, so guys, I really can't complain about anything, right? See, these are top cities of India. If you don't have internet connection there is something clearly wrong. Not in the city, but in transmission, right? So, okay, okay. Kalyan, wonderful. Bangalore, Dineshwar, thank you for asking. Yeah, I think in fact I should just invite all, Bangalore and Chennai folks potentially to an in-class session, right? I think that would be better. Great, Gunjan. Good to have you from Gujarat, Vadodara, Pune, Atul. Wonderful. Okay. Is it better now? Any better? Right. My IT guy is sitting beside me and he keep raising thumbs up. Right. So for him, it is really good. Okay. Wonderful. So let's continue. Right. So what I wanted to talk about with this particular, screen here is this is one of my favorite questions, right? And this is one of my favorite topics to discuss and debate, irrespective of what we do at Great Lakes and being in the education sector and being a technical person. That's what I love about. So a lot of you might wonder and have the right to ask, hey, how are you different from Linux Academy? How are you different from Udemy, edX, A Cloud Guru, Coursera, etc. Right? And it's a great question to have. So first of all of us have the same vision, right? In the sense of not as a company, but all of are doing education, right? So if you wanted to learn from all of us, you can ideally learn, right? And I learn from all of these websites. They are great in what they do, but all of them have a different way of doing the same thing, and they have different impact, right? And unfortunately, if you look at this particular remark here, so if you look at the screen, right? So this guy is a vice president, at a company which deals with cloud training, and if I'm sure you must have visited cloudassessments.com, and it's a branch of company from Linux Academy, right? And not just this person, we hear this sentiment from all the employers that we talk to, right? They do not want people who are paper certified. Okay, I'll pause here for you to reflect, right? So companies, hiring managers, HR people, technical recruiters, VPs and CEOs of the companies do not want people who are merely paper certified. And the unfortunate fact is there are a lot of people, even on LinkedIn, you can just Google, AWS solutions architect. I do not, want to demean anybody, but from my experience, from interviewing many people, from working with many people and trying to evaluate them, there are a whole lot of people who are just paper certified, right? Now, if you have a BTech fresher, if you have a young person, young or old, doesn't matter. But if you do not have hands-on exposure, and if you just do a certification, it's great to land you, a filter or an interview opportunity. But once you get into the interview, right, your experience takes over. It is no more about your certification, right? If you say, hey, I am either AWS certified or Azure, or doesn't matter really, but if you say I am certified, you might have an edge over other candidates before the interview, right? And clearly we endorse that, right? As part of the PG program that we have, people get certified even before they graduate from our program, right? Without any extra preparation, right? And we endorse that. But certifications serve a very specific purpose, right? They will get you a filter and an opportunity for an interview potentially, but once you start the interview, your experience takes over. After that, your chances depend on what have you done rather than what certifications you have on your CV, right? So unless you have done hands-on work, unless you have built solutions which span multiple services, which require you to put together multiple pieces of the infrastructure and application, you really can't become a hands-on architect, right? You really have to do hands-on labs and projects and all of that. So you should learn by doing. That's our philosophy, right? And as we will see in a bit of in a couple of minutes, you will do a lots of hands-on work when you study with us, right? So that's our philosophy. So certifications are very valuable in getting your foot in the door, but then your experience takes over, right? And mid-career jobs require more than one skill. If you were a fresher and if you just said, hey, I know C++, I am a programmer, do you have a job? Probably I might, accept that. But as a mid-career professional who is about, let's say 8 or 10 years experience at a mid-senior level, you can't get a job on just based on one skill, right? You need multiple skills and you need business skills as well, right? So because you will be tasked with solving problems, you will be tasked and responsible for understanding customer requirements in business situation, and you don't have to just configure pieces of software, right? That information is available on Google. Okay. If your motivation is to just find out how EC2 works or how to create a S3 bucket, hey, don't pursue a 6-month long program. That's not what it is for. That information is freely available. But if you wanted to understand how you would take a business problem, translate that into a technical solution, and then build it step by step and understand each of those aspects, then a comprehensive program makes sense for you, right? So a single certification will not solve that purpose, right? So that's our philosophy, and that is why we approach cloud upskilling, and that's the philosophy behind our postgraduate program. And like I said, in real life and in certifications, when you study how things should work. Okay, so if you take up a certification, that certification syllabus or learning material will tell you how things are supposed to work. But in real life, that is not how it works, right? So how things actually work is something that you will only understand when you break things, when you try to create something, right? When you do hands-on stuff. And that is the valuable expertise, the hands-on exposure that companies want to pay for precisely, right? So that's the message here. Now let's see what our program offers in terms of giving you the opportunity of becoming a hands-on cloud professional, and what's our philosophy like. So just a brief summary of the unique aspects of the PGPCC program that we have. It's a 6-month executive program. It's completely online, right? And it is designed for working professionals, right? It is designed for working professionals like you and me, who do not really have time every day, but who are highly ambitious and want to go through the hard work of becoming a hands-on architect potentially. If you are an architect already, you will still get value addition, maybe not in each of the topics that we cover. Maybe something is repetitive for you, but the hallmark of this program is really the peer-to-peer learning that you get and the discussions that happen, right, in our mentored session. So we'll come to that. So it's a 6-month program. It's a completely online program, and it is designed for professionals who want to become architects, right? Hands-on cloud architects. Now, it's in combined online format with live mentored learning. Now, what does that mean? So it basically means, half of the learning happens through recorded high-quality content, which is available to you throughout the week, and which you are supposed to learn from through the week. And on the weekend, right? Each weekend for 6 months, that is 24 weekends, so all of us will come together. I mean, your specific batch, if you decide to enroll, and discuss all of your doubts and queries and use cases, right? So that's what mentored learning is. So mentored learning does not mean to teach you everything again that has been already covered in your sessions or recorded format, but to actually discuss use case and applications, right? And that's what all of our candidates really value, right? Because those discussions you won't find in completely recorded online courses, right? You get tons and tons of hands-on work and exposure, right? So for that particular question, how are you different from other online cheaper versions of cloud certifications, Udemy, Linux Academy, Cloud Guru, really doesn't matter. The exposure that you get through the labs and projects that we do is unmatched, right? I can make that claim because I have taken courses on all of these platforms, and I know what labs and projects that they do, right? There are and none of them do a 2-month capstone project, right? None of them do a guided capstone project for 2 months and build on top of all the concepts that you learn, right? None of them give you an e-portfolio of about 4 pages projects plus the capstone project to showcase to the industry, right? None of them will give you the kind of lab exposure that you have in PGPCC, right? So that's how we are different. And because you learn by doing, you actually know what how things work under the hood and when things can get broken, right? And people who teach you are industry leaders, and people who teach you have worked on cloud and understand the nitty-gritties of it, right? And you get a certification obviously from Great Lakes, which even by Government of India in the recent survey has been ranked in one of the top 20 institutions, right? And in private institutions, it's ahead of many IIMs and IITs as well, right? So that's the program at a very high level. Okay, so I have a question here. In fact, two questions. Okay, so Prahlad, I need to be covered all the videos before getting into the particular weekend class. That's absolutely correct, Prahlad. Without that, you will not be able to ask questions, you will not be able to understand what other people are asking, and you will not be able to discuss your use cases, right? So you will not be prepared. And it's a flipped classroom model, right? It's a global best practice. You can just Google flipped class if you're not aware of it. So that's what we follow. That's absolutely correct. And Supriya is asking how many hours of recordings during the week and how many hours on the weekend of live learning, right? Okay, so weekend is 2 hours, the live mentor sessions. So every weekend you have 2 hours with your mentor to discuss what you have learned, right? And how many hours during the week? It's 4 to 5 hours, right? It's a lot. So you need to learn from 4 to 5 hours of intensive hands-on content, for which you will potentially need 8 to 10 hours, right? So it's a rigorous program. So Prahlad, weekend classes are meant to discuss what you have learned in the week, right? So if you learn from 4 to 5 hours of recorded content, you are learning a lot, right? So we reinforce that. The idea is to reinforce what you have learned by yourself, okay, and clarify any misunderstandings if you have, and also your use cases. Does that answer your question, Prahlad? Perfect. Ankit, does the course include AWS certification as well? The answer is no. But if you ask me, can I get AWS certified if I study this program? Very easily in bold letters, right? And we teach you much more than what AWS certification will teach you, right? Right? They do what they do. That's really great. But our philosophy is more of a generic, right? Our program is not PGP in AWS, right? It's PGP in cloud computing. So you get a much more comprehensive view of what cloud in general is. Ankit, does that answer your question? Do we still have Ankit online? Okay, I'll wait for him to respond anyways. And so Prahlad, what I'll suggest is, while that so first of all, that comparison is actually not correct, because Udemy has a very different model, right? It's a marketplace for people who want to create courses. So believe me, what you get on Udemy is not even the surface of what you will learn in PGPCC, right? Yeah, and in terms of overview, hands-on, demonstration, those videos include everything. Yeah. Okay, Virat, does the course also covers DevOps tools like Chef? We can cover Chef, we can cover Puppet. It really depends on what the batch representation is, right? So we do not have a predefined. So DevOps is divided into two parts. The compulsory part and what we cover as part of the curriculum is DevOps on AWS, Virat, right? So code commit, code pipeline, all of those services. So basically, how do you do DevOps on cloud? And Chef and Puppet are subjective to what the batch structure is, what the representation is. Amit, I'll let you decide that. I really don't want to comment on that. It's a personal choice, right? So it's a completely personal choice, and it's totally up to you, right? Okay. So the question window is acting like stock market here. Okay. Okay, guys, just give me time to respond to one by one all of your questions, and happy to answer each one of them. Just give me one moment. Because there's a flurry of questions now, just give me 1 second. Amit, I hope I answered your observation. And okay, Atul, how much percentage of AWS and how much Azure topics are covered? Will labs be there in both? Okay, so yes, you will have labs on both. And percentage, I don't think it's fair, but significantly it would be about 4 months of AWS for you, a month of Azure, because Azure builds on top of what you have learned on AWS, right? Because clearly there is no point repeating the basics. So we cover Azure from a comparative perspective, but it's quite a lot, right? So almost a month, and then labs will be on both. I hope that helps you, Atul. Supriya, great question. Will we have access to these videos for life or only during the duration of the course? Supriya, you can access these as long as you want, honestly, right? But it will get outdated. Okay, so if I give you access to AWS and Azure for life, AWS and Azure themselves will not be same. They will change, and they will change in a span of 1 or 2 years, right? So that's technology. So AWS literally adds more than 15 services every quarter, but you will have access to them even after the program, right? Supriya, I hope that answers your doubt. Perfect. Okay. Guys, just 1 second. Okay. The next question is, this course covers multiple cloud platforms, use cases to study which public cloud cost effective based on requirements. Leo, I don't know. I'm not sure what the question means, but we definitely cover multiple cloud platforms. By that, I mean AWS and Azure, right? And you will get a whole bunch of use cases. I'm not saying just formally, but when you discuss things in a mentored session or even on the class group, you get to learn a lot, right? And it really depends on your proactiveness. But yes, multiple cloud platforms. Prahlad, okay. So I've gone through few videos from Mr. Nirmalya. It's impressive. Will it be similar clips throughout the course? So Prahlad, let me ask you, which videos have you seen? Do you mean the YouTube ones? Okay. Or the preview ones? Have you already applied for the program and saw the program preview? Is that what you mean? Oh, okay, okay. Yes. So that's right. Yeah, you will learn from him a lot, and not just from him, a couple of other faculties as well, including myself. So that's correct. That's a preview for your quality of faculty. Absolutely correct. Perfect, perfect. Yeah. Dineshwar, cloud migration, which has in second spot, is it from traditional to cloud DC? That's correct, Dinesh. Right. So that's the migration we are talking about. Not from DC to DC, but it's basically on application, right? Because applications are what moves from on-prem to cloud DC. Abdul, okay, so we are coming to that particular slide, right? So just give me 1 second, guys. Let me go to the next slide, right? So this is just a snapshot of what faculties you will learn from, right? And that's the emphasis, right? That's what we evaluate for, and that's what we are concerned about. That how much hands-on, things you do, how much hands-on use cases do you solve, and the program is really designed to be hands-on, right? And this is a very high level, just a bunch of keywords to help you, potentially imagine what you will learn. But if you look at the curriculum that's mentioned on the website, and also, once you apply and talk to us individually, there's a whole bunch of concepts that you will learn and implement, right? So this is just a snapshot. So Abdul, not just AWS, but also Azure, and not just AWS and Azure, but we'll also deal with containers and microservices and big data and private cloud, right? So there's a whole lot more than AWS. Azure is also covered, Abdul. Okay, Kamal, I am a desktop support engineer with 6 years of experience. Will it be applicable for, okay, will it be applicable for me in cloud? With that, I don't have any programming knowledge. Kamal, I'll tell you what. Of course, cloud is relevant for you. If you are a desktop support engineer, you can become something like a cloud engineer or a cloud infrastructure specialist. But my personal suggestion is, even if you don't want to become a programmer, understanding a bit of code always helps, right? Even if you wanted to write a script, right? It could be a cloud formation script, it could be a Terraform script, it doesn't really matter. But if you understand a bit of coding, that will go a long way in your career to help you, right? And if you don't know any programming language, Python is a great language to pick up, right? So for your question, yes, cloud is relevant for you. There are multiple roles that you can transition to, and you should potentially pick up a programming language from a learning perspective, right? I hope that helps you. Kamal. Perfect. Okay, Dineshwar, does cloud migration DC, cloud DC includes data only? Dineshwar. So Dineshwar, let me ask you a counter question, right? So when you talk about an application, is any application useful without data? Right? I think it's a safe bet to say no, right? So it's not just data, it is also your application. And when you migrate to cloud, it can be a choice, right? So if you talk about databases, right, you have to move your database schema as well. You have to move your data relations as well, right? You have to move your metadata, your database engine, and all of that, right? And when you're moving from one infrastructure to other, you might want to change from MySQL to Postgres, right? You might want to change from MySQL to Aurora or SQL Server, doesn't matter, right? So those are the kind of questions you'll have to ponder about and answer when you're doing migration. But it's not just about data, it is about your application primarily and data, right? Dineshwar, I hope that answers your concern. Okay, so Amit, after completion of this course, are you going to provide any assistance in getting a job on cloud? Okay, so that was the last slide of my presentation here. So in fact, let me go there, right? I think that should help Amit, right? Amit, that's the response to your question on screen, live, right? We will definitely try and support you in your journey to get a transition, but obviously it depends on your hard work and how well you pick up the cloud concepts. And being a working professional, it really depends on what's your work portfolio like, right? So what are the kind of projects you've worked upon and how do the target opportunities match up? But yes, we definitely support you, right? But obviously there can't be a guarantee for a mid-career professional, right? It's not campus placement, and transitions at senior level happen differently, right? So the slide is self-explanatory, and let me know if you have questions here. Okay, whole bunch of questions, great. Okay, so Gunjan, are we going to learn recording session and then weekend class will only be discussion? Confused here. Can you confirm once? Correct. Gunjan, there is the first responsibility of learning is with yourself, right? So you'll have access to recorded sessions, which are really high quality, which are demonstrative, and it's not just the concepts we explain. How to do a particular concept, for example, how to, let's say, put up a load balancer, auto scale EC2, all of that, that will be demonstrated in those videos, right? So you can actually practice by yourself. And weekend is not just for Q&A, it is, and that's correct, by the way, it's purely for discussion, but nothing stops us from demonstrating something, but it can't be replaced, for your responsibility of learning from the session, right? Because it's only a 2-hour discussion each weekend, right? And if you're consuming 5 to 6 hours of content, we can't again teach you everything, and we can't teach the batch everything again, right? That's not the design. I hope that clarifies your doubt here. Gunjan, did that help you? Your understanding is right. Yeah, basically, perfect. Okay, Prahlad, correct me if my understanding is wrong. We need to cover 4 to 5 hours of videos and attend weekend live classes. 2, in which stage we discuss about hands-on projects. Okay, so Prahlad, the first half of your observation is perfect. That's right. The second question that you're asking is in which stage we discuss about hands-on projects. Week 3 onwards, you have a project literally every month, right? You have to build 5 projects, right? So the first 4 months will have 4 projects. The last 2 months is your main capstone project, right? So you literally have project work every month, and from the third week itself, you have to start thinking about the project, right? So that was the response to Prahlad's question. Dineshwar, how about underlying storage sitting in DC? So Dineshwar, that's a conceptual question. I don't think if we should discuss this now. Happy to answer it one-on-one. But it's different, right? You have block and object storage, and I think most of the questions are about the program in general, right? Storage can also migrate, by the way, Dineshwar, if that's what you're asking, right? You can migrate your storage as well. Yeah. Rajesh, thank you, Rajesh. I think this is the first question from you. If we missed weekend mentor sessions, can we get the mentor session recording for reference in the future? Rajesh, you get recordings of all the sessions that happen, right? And you can access it even after you graduate. So nothing goes out. You won't miss anything. But participating in the live mentor sessions is highly recommended, because that's where your opportunity is, right? To talk to your mentor. Rajesh, does that help you? Okay, Prahlad, I'm a Python automation engineer and presently working on Jenkins and Docker stuff minimal, completely new to cloud. Will I be able to cope up only with videos? Prahlad, so that understanding is incomplete. It's not just videos. It's we call it mentor learning, right? So you will talk to human beings as well. You will talk to people like me, your mentors and faculties, and right, and will help you understand each of these things, right? And it's not just videos. The most important part of PGPCC is the labs and projects that you do, right? Please remember that. Unless you do all of that, not just PGPCC, any program cannot help you, right? Unless you do hands-on stuff. And you'll be able to cope up if you dedicate the prescribed time for it, right? Many people complain about their workloads and personal circumstances, but we really can't do anything on that front. So if you're willing to dedicate time and have that commitment, you should definitely be able to do that. In fact, if you're working in Docker if you're a Python engineer, you already have a good head start. Prahlad, yep. Abdul, I am from infrastructure services background, mainly from storage. Which path I can follow? I am a storage admin. How can I move ahead in cloud computing? So, Abdul, the scary part is storage admin job is about to go, right? You might feel bad about hearing it, but that's the harsh reality. In the next 3 to 5 years, that role is being automated. And if you learn something like RDS on AWS, backup, storage, archival, disaster recovery, all of that can be automated, right? So you don't need a human being. So you can choose to learn other aspects of cloud computing and become, let's say, an infrastructure engineer or a DevOps person or a cloud support specialist or even an architect, right? I don't know your experience and I don't know the projects that you worked upon, but there are multiple ways in which you can transition, right? Okay, so what is the pre-requirement of this course? I'll let our website page answer that question. Information is available out there. Archana, how there is a link from .NET to cloud computing? So Archana, .NET is a different thing. Cloud computing is a different thing, right? So .NET is a framework from Microsoft for application development, right? And if you look at Azure, the cloud platform from Microsoft, there is no direct correlation, right? So if you were to work on cloud, you can use .NET, you can use Java, you can use Python. Doesn't really matter. So there's no direct correlation. Both are completely different things, Archana. Okay, Dineshwar, how unstructured data do they offer any services? Dineshwar, I'll request that we take such questions, either during the sessions when you start, learning potentially, or I'm happy to answer over a call. But these are really technical questions. I'm happy to answer them, but given the scope of time, let me take more generic questions, right? I hope you understand that. Ankit, are projects included in lab? No, they are different. Okay, projects are different from labs. Archana, how can it help .NET developer transition career? So Archana, for just one example, you can become a cloud native developer, right? You can, but the way you develop things will change slightly, but what you do will not change, right? If you continue to stay a developer, but if you learn cloud computing, you can become a cloud architect, right? And lead a cloud native development team. So that's what those are just two things potentially what you can do. Amit Joshi, do we touch base on security aspect of cloud architecture? Yes, wherever required, but it's not a security specialized course, Amit, right? So I hope you understand the distinction. So we definitely discuss about security, but it's not, completely targeted towards making people cybersecurity experts, right? Virat, do we have unlimited access to labs? The answer is no. How can you have unlimited access to cloud resources, Virat? If you ask the same question to your project manager or your company director, I'm sure the answer is no, right? It's so anything that you do on cloud is capital intensive, and if you compare with other platforms as well, you get enough exposure for completing your labs and projects, right? So no unlimited access. Bala Gobinath, system requirements for this course needed. So we can share that once you potentially make a decision and decide to enroll. It's a system requirement that can be shared with you once you decide to pursue the program. So Rajesh, so projects, are they individual or team assignments? Both. Rajesh, you will do individual projects as well as group projects. Okay, Venkat Bala, your voice is lost and couldn't hear the last conversation. Okay, so Venkat, I was talking about the projects, right? So Rajesh asked about the projects being group or individual, so they are both. I hope you can hear me now. Okay, what about the fee structure? Very politely, please check it on the website. It's all out there. The information is public, right? Let me look at the other questions. Okay, so Priya, Kunal had mentioned about that every alternate weekend we'll have lab sessions. Will those be mentored lab sessions? So Supriya, you have lab Q&A session, right? The way it works is you get a lab problem and a bunch of other details. We call it lab brief. And you're supposed to work by yourself for a day, right? So when you work by yourself for a day on a given lab problem, you will have questions and doubts. And you come back the next day and we have a 1 hour online session where we respond to your questions, right? So it's an assisted lab experience, but the idea is to not give you step-by-step solution, right? That's something that you will have to solve and learn from it. But yes, you get help, right? I hope that helps you. So it's more of an assisted, understanding of the lab, and then you have to complete the lab by yourself. But you can seek a lot of help from your peers as well, and because all of these are evaluated components, we can't tell you step-by-step solution, but we give a high-level approach as to how the lab might be solved. Supriya, does that help you? Yeah, Kapil, that's correct. Thanks, Amit. Thank you for joining. Okay. Akash Gupta, do you provide access to the labs or we have to take subscription from AWS and Azure? So Akash, we will give you lab access to both the platforms, right? But you can also create a free account on both of these platforms, right? It really helps. So when you don't have access to Great Lakes lab environment, you can experiment in your own personal account, right? So yeah. Gunjan, okay, so I am network admin and will be doing cloud computing and less experience to programming. So is it going to help me moving further? with cloud and take further with my current company? Absolutely. If your current company, provided it has relevant cloud opportunities, and not just your company, many other companies are out there, you can definitely transition into a cloud role, Gunjan. And the lack of programming experience is something you can decide to work upon, right, during the entire 6 months of the program. Virat, any example of the kind of projects that we will have to submit? So Virat, one quick example is how you would create something like a Dropbox, right? How would you take up a business process and have it completely automated using managed services on cloud, right? How would you set up a completely automated event registration application? All of that. So yeah, just a few examples. Virat, do I need programming knowledge to complete the projects? Some of them, Virat. Yes, that's correct. But we also have, so guys, just for a general information, so we also have labs and projects designed based on your interest area, and we are working towards that. And very soon we'll have labs and projects, based on whether you are a developer or not, right? So that's still in the process, but yeah, you as of now you need certain programming knowledge to complete some of the projects, not all of them. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have exhausted all the questions. Amazing bunch of questions, a lot of them. So I hope this session was meaningful to all of you, and clearly it was very interactive. So thanks a lot, everyone, for participating. Thank you for taking out time today afternoon, and I hope this session was meaningful to you. Thank you, and have a good day. Thank you, everyone. Dinesh, you can just give a call on the number on your screen, and they will be happy to connect you with me. Right? Honestly, I might forget to call you. Thanks for sharing your number. But just give a call on the number in front of your screen, and happy to connect with you. Right? Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.